At the edge of a quiet village stood a towering mountain. Its peak disappeared into the clouds, and the people in the village often looked up at it with a mix of awe and fear. Among them was a young man named Daniel. Ever since he was a child, Daniel dreamed of climbing that mountain. He imagined standing at the top, feeling the wind against his face and seeing the world spread out beneath him. But every time he mentioned his dream, people laughed. "That mountain is too difficult," they said. "Many have tried and failed. People like us don't climb mountains like that." Slowly, their words began to sink into Daniel's mind. Maybe they were right, he thought. Maybe the mountain was meant only to be admired from below. But one evening, as the sun set behind the peak, Daniel whispered to himself, "What if I just try one step?" The next morning, he packed a small bag and walked toward the mountain. His heart pounded with fear. The mountain looked even bigger up close. He took one step, then another. After an hour, his legs were tired and doubt crept into his mind. This is impossible, he thought. Just then, he slipped on loose gravel and fell hard to the ground. Frustrated and embarrassed, Daniel turned back and returned to the village. For days he avoided looking at the mountain. The failure stung more than the fall itself. But something inside him refused to stay quiet. A fall doesn't mean the journey is over, he reminded himself. So the next week, he returned to the mountain. This time he climbed a little higher before fear returned. The wind grew stronger, and the path became steeper. Again, he doubted himself. Again, he turned back. But each time he tried, he climbed a little further than before. Weeks turned into months. Daniel learned to move carefully over loose stones. He learned which paths were safer and when to rest. More importantly, he learned something about himself. The mountain wasn't defeated in one giant leap. It was climbed through tiny steps. One morning, after many attempts, Daniel woke up before sunrise. When fear whispered, he kept going. When doubt appeared, he focused on the next step. When exhaustion hit, he rested, but he never quit. Hours later, Daniel noticed something strange. The ground leveled beneath his feet. The clouds parted. And suddenly, there was nowhere higher to climb. He had reached the top. Daniel stood still, overwhelmed. The entire world stretched out before him. Rivers like silver threads, forests like green oceans, and the tiny village far below. He smiled, not because the mountain was conquered, but because he had conquered the voice that once told him he couldn't. When Daniel returned to the village, people gathered around him in amazement. "How did you do it?" they asked. Daniel looked back at the towering mountain and said quietly, "I didn't climb the mountain all at once. I just kept taking tiny steps." And from that day on, whenever someone in the village faced a big dream or an impossible goal, they would remember Daniel's journey. Because every mountain in life, no matter how tall, can be climbed the same way. One small step at a time.